Wild thing, I think you moved me, but I want to know for sure.
Red eyes. Red eyes, fiery and furious, flickering in the dark. Eyes that pull you in. Eyes that draw a question out of you, that drive you forward. Hot breaths against a mouth, light and teasing. A pair of lips, surprisingly soft and tasting of sweat and blood and ink. Wandering hands discovering arms, thick and muscular. Short hairs brushing under palms. A sudden pooling of heat in the gut. Hands caressing a toned stomach. A low moan. Fingers moving southward, a breath hitching before starting again, a little faster, a little more unsteady. Tongues joining, dancing around each other. Something deeper awakening. Not enough. Ground giving way, falling forward. Plunging downward, hips on hips, twin knees. Hands hovering over thick, powerful thighs. Fingers digging into toned flesh. A deep, gravelly groan. Surrendering. Leaning forward, staring into crimson flames. Pressing thighs back further, further, growing closer, closer. A name wafting through the air. Hips bearing down, a sudden, tight heat and it's good, it's so good, it's too good. Frenzied, all-consuming, and utterly mindless. There's nothing left but the lust and the motion and Izuku woke to the sound of his alarm, sweaty and gasping for air. He reached over and smacked it off then stared at the ceiling, dazed. It took him several minutes to reorient himself. He hadn't had a dream like that in a long time, and he couldn't remember if he'd ever had one that erotic. Izuku shifted under his blankets, immediately uncomfortable. A glance southward told him why and he groaned. His hands found his hair and he grabbed at it, palms pressing into his eyes. He could feel the dampness of his hairline. Wasn't he too old for this sort of thing? He lay there for a while, thinking things through. Sure, Ground Zero was hot. And talented. And heroic. But he was also a musician, and it was no secret what sort of lifestyle those types tended to lead. Bakugo could, and probably did, bed whoever he wanted to, whenever he wanted to. He wasn't a teenager anymore, Izuku told himself. The time for crushes on guys in bands was long over. There was no point in letting his attraction get away from him. Hell, he didn't even know if Katsuki was into men. He'd have to be an idiot to try anything. Izuku resolved to treat this as what it was, a fantasy, and nothing more. He checked the time on his phone and grimaced, forcing himself upright. He needed to get ready for work, and to work out his issue. It was all right, wasn't it? Izuku got up, stumbled into the bathroom and turned on the shower. He'd do it once then never think about him again. Less than 2 minutes later, Izuku stared into the shower drain, panting as water streamed down his face, his entire body quaking. If only it were that easy. Izuku didn't need to check the door number on the apartment in the end. This was because the door was, in fact, wide open. People were already spilling into the hallway and Izuku could hear the noise all the way from the elevator. Hopefully the neighbors didn't mind. Izuku peeked around the edge of the doorway. A couple dozen people were cluttering up the interior and it was only early evening. He sidestepped a guy dressed as Spider-Man, his mask rolled up far enough to expose his mouth as he raised a bottle to his lips. Izuku knocked on the open door before entering hesitantly. This had to be it. The entrance led to a narrow open-ended kitchen. 2 pots on the stove were presently emanating fantastic smells. Izuku had barely set his cooler bag down, mouth watering, when a pair of hands lightly touched his shoulders. "Izuku," a woman's voice exclaimed, and Izuku turned around. Yeah," he said, squinting at the girl. "Mina." Mina beamed and struck a pose, tilting her gold sequined top hat down. "Don't I look amazing?" she asked, twirling on the spot. She was dressed to the nines, all shine and sparkles. Her pink hair was slicked back and she wore a black strapless top with a gold jacket. The look was completed with a pink neck bow, and everything was covered in sequins. Her heels clicked as she spun. "I made it myself." Izuku was impressed. "You did a great job," he said, and Mina giggled. He was glad he'd put a decent amount of effort into his own costume, not that he'd wanted to look cool in front of the band or anything. "I made mine too." Mina smiled kindly. "Did you gender bend the grudge or something?" she asked as a man wearing a black greaser-style wig swung up behind her, wrapping an arm around her waist. "Midoriya," he said, grinning. Izuku recognized the smile immediately. "You came." Kirishima was wearing ripped jeans and a black leather vest lined with leopard print. "I'm glad I could make it," Izuku said, smiling. He gestured towards his cooler bag. "I brought guac." "Nice," Kirishima said. He tilted his head as he studied Izuku. "You're a dead body." "Close enough." "An evil spirit," Izuku corrected. He'd torn up an oversized white shirt and spattered it with dirt and fake blood, then paled his face with white cream makeup. It was cheap Halloween stuff and had ended up kind of transparent. He'd finished the look by smearing more black blood on his face, letting it run down from his eyes. He might have gotten a little carried away with the fake blood. Kirishima laughed and nodded, and Izuku hesitated. "You guys are from Rocky Horror, right?" Mina popped her foot, resting a hand on Kirishima's chest. "Kiri's my Eddie for tonight," she said sweetly, batting her eyelashes up at him. "And I'm his Columbia." "Oh," Izuku said. "I didn't realize you were a couple." Kirishima quickly turned as red as his concealed hair while Mina started to laugh. "You're so funny," she said, shaking a finger at Izuku. "It's just a costume, Izuku." Kirishima removed his arm from Mina's waist and rubbed his neck. He glanced away, eyes coming to rest on Izuku's cooler. "Guac, you said?" he asked, stepping closer. Yeah," Izuku said, unzipping the bag. He felt bad for embarrassing Kirishima and was happy to change the subject. "I'm not much of a cook, but my mom taught me a few things before I moved out." "It's homemade?" "Right on." Izuku handed Kirishima the cheap bowl covered in plastic wrap. He also revealed a couple bags of nachos and a six-pack of the same brand of beer they'd been drinking at the concert. The redhead made a show of setting the bowl on the counter and ripping open one of the bags. "Damn, not bad, not bad," Kirishima said after sampling Izuku's creation. He passed the bag to Mina then stepped out of the kitchen, cupping a hand to his mouth. "Hey, Bakugo," he called out. "This guac's almost as good as yours." "F you, no it isn't." Izuku's stomach lurched and he felt an immediate twinge of nervousness. "You don't know that," Kirishima shouted back. "Come and try it." "I'm busy." "Oh my god," Mina said, popping another chip into her mouth. "It is good." "Thanks," Izuku said, trying very hard not to think about the fact that Bakugo was in the other room. He grabbed the six-pack and extended a kin to Kirishima, who accepted without hesitation. "Midoriya's got the goods," he crowed, cracking it then picking up the bowl and walking out of the kitchen. Out the far side was a table littered with various snacks and an absurd number of bottles of hard liquor. Setting the bowl down along with the chips, Kirishima turned back to Izuku and gestured. "Help yourself to whatever you want," he said. "Group donations." He took a swig of the beer then raised his hand, brushing past Izuku to greet a new arrival. Mina skipped after him and Izuku was alone. Izuku watched them go. He knew there'd be other people at the party, but he really didn't know anyone else. At least he wouldn't be staying long. Feeling naked without his camera, Izuku grabbed one of his beers instead and wandered over to the cluttered table. It was covered in various snacks and Halloween treats, most of them store-bought. He didn't dare touch anything for now. Izuku shuffled indecisively while stealing a glance around the apartment. The table was in a side area that opened into the main living quarters, where most of the partygoers were. It was a pretty decent-sized apartment, and Kirishima had taken the time to decorate it for Halloween. Fake cobwebs, caution tape, bloody handprints, the works. It seemed like a lot of effort. Maybe Kirishima had roommates. The partygoers were dressed in a strange array of costumes, and Izuku spotted Katsuki almost immediately simply because he was the only person who wasn't wearing one. Katsuki was sitting cross-legged in an armchair, glaring furiously at his phone as he hunched over it, typing out a message. He was wearing a black tank and a pair of heavily studded green army pants. Izuku thought it unfair that Katsuki seemed to only wear tanks and fitted shirts. It was incredibly distracting. He wasn't keen on talking to the blonde one-on-one, but Izuku didn't recognize anyone else and he couldn't stand at the table forever. After taking a few gulps of liquid courage, he approached the blonde timidly, standing a few feet away while the other partygoers raised a ruckus around them. "Hi," Izuku blurted out. Katsuki glanced up. It only took one look from those eyes for the heat to start in Izuku's cheeks. He quickly glanced away, trying to rid himself of the guilty reminder that he'd gotten himself off while fantasizing about doing unspeakable things to this man. Twice. God damn it, Katsuki said before going back to his phone. Izuku laughed nervously. They fell into an awkward silence. Izuku was considering bailing when Katsuki spoke up. The hell are you supposed to be anyways? An evil spirit. You look like a demented rag doll. Izuku frowned, momentarily annoyed enough to forget his embarrassment. Says the guy who came to a Halloween party without a costume. Costumes are stupid. This confused Izuku. But you have one on stage. Katsuki looked up long enough to raise a brow. What? No, I don't. Izuku gestured towards his eyes. The black. That's not a costume, idiot. That's war paint. The logic of this was lost on Izuku, and he had to bite the inside of his cheek to keep himself from smiling. He tentatively took a seat on the long couch adjacent the armchair and sipped his beer. Well, whatever it is, it looks cool, he said. Katsuki ignored him in favor of falling into a fuming silence as he fervently typed out what must have been a rather lengthy message. This was going terribly. Izuku eyed the room, not seeing Kirishima or Mina in the near vicinity. Maybe he should try and strike up a conversation with some strangers. It couldn't go any worse than this. Izuku's nervousness made him stay put though, and he stared at his kin wishing he hadn't come at all. Katsuki swore at his phone and stood. He hit a button on the device, then raised it to his ear as he stalked away, flinging open the balcony door while yelling at someone on the other end. The door slammed behind him, but the other partygoers barely reacted. As he left, Izuku caught sight of black ink curling over Katsuki's shoulder blades. He hadn't noticed that tattoo before. The one on his chest still poked out from under his tank teasingly, piquing Izuku's interest despite their failed conversation. Lost in his thoughts, Izuku didn't notice the figure approaching him until a friendly hand gave his shoulder a solid pat. Midoriya. Kaminari said, grinning devilishly, which was appropriate considering his costume. Didn't know you were coming. Izuku felt like giving Kaminari a hug. Kaminari, he said, relieved to see a friendly face. Nice costume. It made sense that Kaminari was here, Izuku discerned, since he'd said that he and Kirishima were close. Thanks. Kaminari said, shaking his shoulders so that his bat wings bounced. He put his hands on his hips. Just finished it. Nice cool thing. Sorry that I forgot I invited you. Izuku frowned. You didn't invite me. Kirishima did. Isn't this his party? Kaminari tilted his head, looking puzzled as he sat down in the empty armchair. It's both of ours, he said. We've done it every year since high school. Damn, guess you made an impression then. You guys are even closer than I realized, Izuku said. We're roommates. Izuku did a double take. He looked at Kaminari with a betrayed expression. You never told me that. It was hard to imagine he'd only been 1 degree of separation from the band this entire time. Kaminari shrugged and smiled innocently. It never came up. Izuku was still processing this information when the balcony door opened and closed again. Katsuki stomped over to Kaminari and glowered down at him. Out of my chair, he grumbled. Kaminari settled himself further into it, wiggling around stubbornly. It's my chair, actually, he said. I live here. Great. Want me to throw you off your balcony? Kaminari groaned and stood, defeated. He skulked over to Izuku and sat down next to him, bumping his shoulder. Katsuki reclaimed his former position, crossing his legs again. Still dealing with that? Kaminari asked. Flip off. Kaminari leaned his head against Izuku's shoulder, looking up at him woefully. Bakugo's mad at me, he said. He's been mad at me all week. Izuku looked at Kaminari warily. What for? Kaminari smiled guiltily. I was supposed to come to their show to take photos, but I double-booked myself by accident. Useless a-hole, Bakugo muttered, back on his phone. Ah, don't be like that. I sent Midoriya, didn't I? Izuku straightened suddenly and Kaminari's head bounced off his shoulder. You, he said, looking at Kaminari accusingly. I thought you were giving me advice, not passing off a job. Kaminari rubbed his neck, wincing. Why can't it be both, he said. It worked out, didn't it? Izuku opened and closed his mouth, not sure whether to be amused or frustrated by Kaminari's sneakiness. Katsuki snorted. Did for us, he said. Maybe we'll use him from now on and ditch you, since you're so goddamn unreliable. Really? Izuku perked up while Kaminari made a series of protesting noises. No, Katsuki looked at Izuku humorlessly. Frick, you really are a sucker, Deku. Before Izuku could respond, Kaminari started to laugh. Ah, you've joined the nickname club, he said joyfully. You should be honored, Midoriya. Katsuki glared at Kaminari. Want to die, sh devil? Kaminari smacked his hands down on the edge of the couch. And that's my cue to grab a drink, he said, standing. He looked at Izuku and Bakugo amiably. Want anything? I brought some beers. Help yourself, Izuku offered, raising his can. Sweet, thanks. Kaminari made his hands into guns and pointed them at Izuku. Izuku hesitated, then glanced at Katsuki. Want one? I ain't drinking. It was clear that Katsuki was occupied with something, but even so, it didn't seem right. No costume, ignoring everyone. Why'd you even come? Izuku asked. Katsuki sighed, throwing his head back against the armchair. I didn't come, he said. I just haven't left. But Katsuki glowered at him. You talk too much. Izuku snapped his mouth shut. At least the blonde wasn't yelling at him. Not long after a woman approached. She regarded the two of them with mild amusement. She was wearing a white skin-tight ensemble resembling a bathing suit and a white belt, coupled with a black leather jacket and a plastic gun. Her purple hair was fluffed up, but Izuku recognized her by her triangular markings, which he could now assume were tattoos. Her outfit was revealing enough to make Izuku blush. Bakugo, Jiro said, acknowledging the blonde. Katsuki grunted. She turned to Izuku, a small smile on her lips. Groupie. Quick as lightning, Katsuki reached out and grabbed the front of Izuku's costume, hoisting him up as he stood. Izuku, panicking, dropped his beer as he flailed his arms before holding them out by his sides, frozen. The can clattered to the ground, spilling its contents everywhere. Katsuki's expression was twisted up into a scowl, his eyes narrowed with suspicion. You a groupie? He demanded, and Izuku's heart leapt to his throat. He shook Izuku by the front of his torn-up shirt. A nervous squeak escaped him, his eyes wide in their sockets. Katsuki snarled. Trying to get close to the band, are you? Ain't gonna let another of you freaks stake us out to get your rocks off. Kaminari, returning with his beer, saw the commotion and dashed over. Bakugo, what the hell, he screeched, grabbing the man by the shoulder. Katsuki gave Kaminari a glare so withering that he immediately retracted his hand. Jiro looked similarly startled. She shook her head vigorously. Hey Bakugo, it was just a joke, she said. I wasn't being serious. Katsuki's gaze remained fixated on Izuku as his grip on his costume tightened. Well, he demanded. I'm not a groupie. Izuku exclaimed, his breathing ragged as he tried to ground himself. Bullcrap. Bakugo, let him go. Kaminari said, realization creeping in. Midoriya's cool, man. I know him. He's not like that. Izuku struggled against Katsuki's grip. I barely know you guys, he protested. I'd never even heard of you before last week. Katsuki regarded him with eyes that spoke of distrust. The hell do you mean you'd never heard of us? It's true. Izuku said. He decided to lay all his cards on the table, remembering how out of place he'd felt at the anti-heroes gig. Do I look like the kind of guy who goes to these types of shows all the time? Katsuki growled. To know what you look like. Why don't you tell me? Bakugo, seriously. Shut up, purple hair. Izuku threw his hands up, fear giving way to frustration. He took a breath, mouth quivering, and looked Katsuki straight in the eyes. You won't punch me, he said. Katsuki's expression began to take on a manic look, and for a second Izuku doubted his own words. The blonde brought his face inches from Izuku's. Oh yeah. Izuku gulped. He could feel Katsuki's hot breath on his face. You won't, he repeated. I know you won't. Kaminari brought his hands to his face in horror. Katsuki gripped Izuku's costume even tighter. How's that? Because Izuku started. You're one of the good guys. Katsuki stared at Izuku blankly before a disgusted look came over his face. He released Izuku's shirt with a shove, and Izuku stumbled back, putting a hand over his heart as he took a series of deep breaths to calm himself. Both Kaminari and Jiro looked at Izuku as if he'd gone insane. Katsuki ran a hand down the side of his face in disbelief. One of the good guys, he repeated. What are you, 12? Twice that, actually, Izuku managed. Katsuki shook his head. You're a real head case, you know that. Coming from Katsuki, Izuku found this statement incredibly strange. He said. Katsuki hesitated, then took a step forward. He leaned in, jabbing his index finger into the middle of Izuku's chest. Listen up, he said, eyeing Izuku warily. Maybe you're a groupie. Maybe you're not. Katsuki paused. You mess with me, and I'll kick your ass. You mess with them. He jerked his head towards the entryway of the apartment, where Kirishima and Mina were currently chatting it up with Spider-Man. I'll kill you. Got it. Bakugo. Kaminari said exasperatedly. He grabbed Izuku's arm and began dragging him away. Leave Midoriya alone. Izuku was a whole mess of confused emotions. It was strange, being both terrified and enthralled by what was obviously a protective streak in Katsuki at the same time. You must care about your friends a lot, he said thoughtlessly. Both Kaminari and Jiro shouted at Izuku as Jiro grabbed his other arm. Together they hauled him off before Katsuki could make good on his threat. What are you, crazy? Kaminari hissed once they'd taken Izuku aside into the area by the snack table. Both he and Jiro regarded Izuku with stern expressions. Didn't know you were this ballsy, Midoriya. But at least don't egg him on. Izuku glanced over their shoulders and saw Kirishima grabbing Katsuki and dragging him away somewhere, an arm over his shoulder. I wasn't egging him on, he said. Was I? You totally were, Jiro said. She brought a hand to her face and sighed. Sorry about that. I wasn't expecting him to freak out so badly. Izuku considered everything that had just happened. There was a question on his mind, something that both Kirishima and Jiro had made allusions to. He can't hate his own fans, Izuku reasoned, thinking aloud. That wouldn't make sense. He looked between Jiro and Kaminari. Did something happen? Jiro and Kaminari exchanged glances. Kaminari started, but Jiro interrupted him. It isn't really our place to say, she said, elbowing Kaminari. But there's been a couple of incidents. I shouldn't have brought it up. She looked at Izuku apologetically. Bakugo or Kirishima might tell you if you ask. But don't press them. She leaned in closer, her voice lowering to a whisper. And make sure you never bring it up in front of Mina, okay? I mean it. She looked at Izuku earnestly. Jiro's words only added fuel to Izuku's curiosity, but he nodded anyways. He didn't want to upset anyone unnecessarily. No problem, he said. You don't have to worry about me. Jiro relaxed. Let me make it up to you, she said, turning towards the kitchen table. I make great BIH drinks. She eyed the alcohol and snacks. What's your poison? Vodka? Whiskey? She narrowed her eyes and studied Izuku for a moment. Rum. You really don't have to, Izuku said, gesturing over to the floor still soaked in beer. I should clean up the mess I made. Jiro snapped her fingers. Denki, she said. Go take care of the floor. Kaminari groaned. Fine, he said, and he turned his back, wings bouncing as he slunk away. Jiro turned back to Izuku. So, she said. Izuku winced. He was being read like a book, wasn't he? Rum, he admitted, hanging his head. A faint smile appeared on Jiro's face. Got it, she said. Jiro got to work and Izuku watched her with interest. By the time she was done she had created some mysterious purple brew, a heavy dark pool sitting at the bottom of the clear plastic cup and mixing in slow tendrils towards the top. She handed the drink to Izuku, who stared at it suspiciously. In the spirit of the season, Jiro said by way of explanation. Izuku took a cautious sip, his eyes lighting up. Oh, wow, he said. This is actually really good. It was a little sweet, and didn't taste alcoholic at all. Jiro grinned. I got you, she said, giving Izuku a thumbs up. We cool? Izuku nodded. Yeah. Kaminari wandered back over, his beer in hand. He looked at Izuku's drink. No fair. You made him a drink, he said. I want one too. Jiro reached up and pinched Kaminari's cheek. All right, she said mischievously. Since you were good. She got to work and not long after proffered a cup containing a bright orange beverage. Yes. Kaminari said, pumping his fist. He took the drink with one hand and chugged his beer to completion with the other before setting the empty can down. Izuku watched with mild amusement as Kaminari took a healthy gulp from the cup. Jiro makes the best drinks, he told Izuku, and Izuku was inclined to agree. By the time they returned to the couch with their drinks, Katsuki was back in his armchair and Kirishima was sitting on the arm casually. "Don't worry about it so much, bro," Kirishima was saying. "It's a party. Relax." The redhead perked up, seeing the group approach. They all piled onto the couch together, and he grinned when he saw the drinks in hand. "You've been mixing," Kirishima said to Jiro, and the woman chuckled, sipping on her own green beverage. "It's been a while," Jiro said. "I don't usually get to play around this much." "Make me one too," Kirishima said, his grin widening. He looked at Kaminari and Izuku. "What are yours?" "Whiskey," Kaminari said. "Rum," said Izuku. Katsuki looked over at Izuku and snorted. "Really?" A smirk passed over Jiro's lips. "You say that," she said to Katsuki, "but all I hear is vodka. I ain't drinking." "I'll have a vodka." Kirishima laughed. "Can I get whatever he's having?" he said, pointing at Kaminari's cup. "Sure thing," Jiro said. She stood, stretching her arms. "You really ought to be paying me, you know," she said to Kirishima, who laughed and waved it off. "We'll pay you in curry," he said, motioning towards Katsuki. Izuku blinked. Was that what that amazing smell had been? Yeah, Jiro said. "I might make the best drinks, but Bakugo makes the best food." "Damn right I do," Katsuki said, and Izuku found himself surprised once more. "You made curry?" he asked. His expression must have betrayed him, because Katsuki scowled. "What are you so damned shocked about?" he snapped. "Think I can't cook?" Izuku closed his mouth. "No," he said. "It just smells good." "Nice costume, by the way, Major," Kirishima said to Jiro. The woman grinned and saluted him. "Thanks. I've got a date later, so I figured I'd dress to kill." She picked up her gun and aimed it at Kirishima. "I just came for the food." As Jiro left, a pair of hands holding a headband with cat ears reached out from behind Katsuki's armchair. Mina's hat popped up over the top of the chair as she placed the ears unceremoniously on Katsuki's head. "Surprise," she said. "I found you a costume after all." Katsuki growled and ripped the offending object off his head before hucking them across the room. "My ears!" Mina cried out, laughing. She hung her chin over the top of the armchair and patted Katsuki's arm gently. "Kaken's being a poop this year," she informed Izuku. She giggled, her cheeks flushed. Izuku had to bite back a laugh. "It's too bad because last year was a lot of fun. We dressed him up like the dentist guy from Little Shop of Horrors. He got so wasted he sang the song and everything." "Oh my god," Izuku said. "I might actually pay money to see that." "F's sake, how long are you a.holes going to call me that for?" Katsuki snarled, glaring at Izuku before jerking his head around to glare at Mina. Both her and Kirishima started to laugh. "Mina's been tormenting him all week," Kirishima said. Katsuki pushed him off the edge of the chair and he fell to the ground with a loud thud. Katsuki shot daggers at Izuku. "This is all your fault, Deku," he said accusingly. "Hey, you started it," Izuku said, his mouth twitching. Katsuki swore under his breath. Mina stood up and skipped over to the couch, sitting on the arm next to Izuku. She peered at his drink. "What is that?" she asked curiously. Izuku looked down. Was it already half gone? The cups weren't exactly small. "I'm not sure," he said. "Can I try it?" Mina asked. After a moment's awkwardness, Izuku handed her the cup. She took a big gulp, then beamed. "Oh my god," she said. "I love this. It tastes like candy." "Let me see," Katsuki said as Mina took another gulp. Izuku grabbed his cup back hastily. "Get your own," he said, and the entire group burst into laughter. Izuku found himself joining in, feeling remarkably bubbly. Jiro returned, passing a drink to Kirishima and another to Katsuki, a clear one with small particles floating in it. Katsuki stirred it with his finger disinterestedly. "Kyuka," Mina said, smiling flirtatiously. "Darling. Make me one of whatever you gave to Izuku? Pretty please." "For you, anything," Jiro said, winking. She glanced at Izuku, delighted. "What, done already?" she asked. Izuku looked down at his empty cup. "Oh," he said, queuing up another round of laughter from the group. "One sec," Jiro said, scuttling off again. Katsuki raised his cup, sampled it, then set it down on the side table. His phone screen lit up and he seized it. Still. Kirishima asked from his place on the floor. Katsuki groaned and Kirishima gave him a sympathetic look. Izuku's curiosity was really starting to get the better of him, and the bubbliness was making him forget his agitation. "What's the matter?" he asked. Kirishima sighed. "Problem with our new shirts," he said as Katsuki shot off another message. "They messed up the designs and we've got to reprint. Bakuga's been arguing with them all day. They're saying they can't get them to us by the date we need them." "Oh, they're gonna get them to us," Katsuki said, setting his phone down forcefully. "I sent that shit off months ago. Ain't our fault they're a bunch of dipshits who can't do their jobs right. We have an event in a few weeks," Mina explained. "It's this Battle of the Bands thing. We were hoping to have them for that. Plus we're planning a tour for our new album and need them for the road." She sighed dramatically. "We're planning a tour?" Katsuki deadpanned. Mina smiled sheepishly. "Bakuga arranges all our tours and handles the business end of things," Mina said. "I take care of our social media. And Kiri. I deal with the fans," Kirishima said. "Plus whatever else comes up." He looked at Katsuki earnestly. "I'd do more if you'd let me," he said. Katsuki glowered. "I've got it covered," he said. Izuku had never thought about how much work went into running a band. Since the anti-heroes were unsigned, he realized they must manage everything themselves on top of creating all their music and playing shows. It was probably a full-time job. And it sounded like Katsuki was taking far more than his share of the work. "That really sucks about your shirts," Izuku said. "I hope it works out for you guys." "Drinks." Jiro interrupted cheerfully, 2 purple beverages in hand. Before Izuku or Mina could do anything, Katsuki reached out and swiped one. Katsuki tasted it cautiously, making a face. "The hell," he said. "How can you drink this? It's a goddamn sugar bomb. It's not that sweet." Izuku defended. Katsuki stared at him. "I bet you like pumpkin spice lattes too." "I don't." Izuku had only had 2 so far this year. "Whatever, groupie." Katsuki passed the cup off to Mina, and Izuku took the other from Jiro. Katsuki picked up his own. "What's yours?" Izuku inquired. It was the most normal-looking drink by far. Katsuki was quiet for a moment, then passed his cup over wordlessly, a hint of mischief in his eyes. Izuku, too tipsy to consider the fact that Katsuki's mouth had already touched the cup, sniffed it. It smelled like pepper. He took a sip, and his eyes watered. "What dash?" he spluttered. "Why's it spicy? You telling me you can't take it?" Katsuki sneered. Izuku passed the cup back. "It's all right," he said, trying not to cough. "But it's a drink. A clear drink. With cayenne," Jiro said proudly. "I made it work." "It's not terrible," Katsuki said. Jiro smacked him lightly and he glared at her. "Is that all you have to say to me?" she said, taking her place next to Kaminari on the couch. "No. Your costume sucks too." "Ugh." Jiro huffed, turning to look at Kaminari. "Can you believe this guy? It's a miracle he has any friends at all." "He's not that bad," Kirishima said. Katsuki promptly karate chopped him on the top of his head. Izuku started to laugh. "You guys are great," he said happily. "I'm glad I came." He drank deeply from his cup. "Thank me." Kaminari protested. "I started it all." "Thanks, Denki." Mina clasped her hands over her heart. "I love this boy," she gushed. "He's such a sweetie." Katsuki's phone started to ring. He snarled, then threw his head back and finished his drink in one gulp before stomping away to the balcony. Mina stood as well, dusting her skirt off playfully. She extended a hand to Kirishima. "Let's do the food, yeah? I'm hungry and the drinks are going to my head." Kirishima nodded and accepted her hand. "Help us set up, bro," he said to Kaminari. "Yeah, bro," Kaminari said, and they bumped fists before heading to the kitchen. Their friendship suddenly made perfect sense to Izuku. Left alone with Jiro, Izuku smiled guiltily. "I feel bad that you're spending the whole party making drinks for everyone," he said. Jiro smirked. "You act like I haven't been taking shots every time I leave." She looked at Izuku's cup. "Let me make you another. I have a feeling you're going to need it." Izuku had no idea what Jiro was talking about, but he nodded anyways. The partygoers were starting to gather around the kitchen and Izuku watched them for a while before following suit. The aromas coming from the kitchen by now were heavenly. Izuku could detect a thick blanket of spices wafting through the room. Katsuki had really done this? It took Izuku some time to get through the narrow space. Kirishima and Kaminari were sitting on the counter across from the oven, chowing down. There were 2 pots on the stovetop, one considerably emptier than the other. Izuku couldn't tell why, they both smelled amazing. If anything, the fuller pot had an even richer scent emanating from it. Scooping a ladleful of white rice on his paper plate, Izuku paused, then took some curry from the pot. Midoriya. Kirishima crowed. Kaminari hooped. So manly. Izuku shot them a confused smile before exiting the kitchen. Mina had settled into the empty armchair, her knees hanging lazily over the arm as she munched on her plate, humming happily. Izuku saw a whole slew of mixed drinks had been placed on the side and coffee table, but Jiro was nowhere to be found. It took him a moment to identify his own before he sat down. So good, Mina moaned, twirling her fork in the air. Izuku took a big bite of his curry and his mouth almost caved. It was so incredibly spicy. If that drink from before was hot, this was an inferno. His eyes teared up immediately, and he started coughing over the sheer intensity. He grabbed his drink and hastily downed a good third of it. Once the burning sensation became manageable, Izuku reconsidered his plate. He took a smaller, more cautious bite and his eyes watered again, spilling over this time. It was almost unbearably spicy, but it was so good. The richness and depth of the flavor was unlike any other curry he'd had before. He sniffed loudly, and Mina glanced over. One look at him was enough to send her into fits of laughter. Izuku, she exclaimed, her entire body shaking. You took the hot one, didn't you? Izuku coughed again, and Mina laughed harder. Katsuki decided to use this exact moment to return from the balcony. Bakugo! Mina called out breathlessly. Katsuki's eyes snapped over. She pointed at Izuku. Look at him. Tears were flowing freely from both of Izuku's eyes, his face all pinched up. He swiped at his face, smearing costume makeup everywhere. He breathed through his mouth, tongue on fire. Katsuki gave Izuku a bewildered look. Are you crying? No, Izuku said. He sniffled. He can't handle his spice, Mina said, cackling. Katsuki's expression switched to understanding. It's not even that hot, you wuss, he said scornfully. Bakugo is the king of spices, Mina informed Izuku. If it's too much for you, just go back and take another plate. It's fine, Izuku said. Both Mina and Katsuki looked at him incredulously. Izuku thought it through. It's painful, but like, a good pain, I guess. He shrugged and took another bite, new tears appearing. Oh god, I can't stop. Oh. Mina crooned. Izuku's a masochist. Izuku almost choked. Katsuki shook his head, completely done with both of them, and walked away while muttering under his breath. Izuku worked through his plate, which was doing wonders for his sinuses as the others trickled back. He managed most of it with plenty of mixed drinks in between. They soothed his mouth and stomach, the latter of which felt as though he had swallowed a hot coal. Minutes after Izuku finished, Katsuki returned with a heaping plate of his own curry. He stopped at the armchair and looked at Mina. Get off, he said gruffly. Mina stuck her tongue out at him. No. Katsuki scowled and kicked the leg of the chair. Mina kicked her legs back at him. It's my turn, she said petulantly. Go make nice with Izuku. Ain't making nice with crap, he grumbled, though after looking between the chair and his occupied hands, he did as he was told and took a seat on the couch, leaving a healthy gap between himself and Izuku. Next time I pick you up and drop you on your ass, he grumbled. Love you, Mina said in a sing-song voice. Izuku felt a sudden disappointment. Oh. You're together then, he asked Mina. Mina almost spit out her drink. Oh my god, Izuku. She slapped the side of her leg as she laughed heartily. Me with. She pointed her fork at Katsuki, who had his plate balanced between crossed legs as he read something on his phone. Did you hear that, Bakugo? Katsuki looked up. Hear what? Izuku thinks we're a couple. She kicked out her legs in mirth. A flicker of what might have been amusement passed over Katsuki's face. You wish, he said. Mina clutched her stomach. Izuku was starting to feel a bit ridiculous. I think he's trying to figure out if I'm single, Mina said with a wink. Izuku promptly went beet red as Katsuki shot him an evil eye. He was starting to think that maybe Mina was just a flirt. It's not like that at all, Izuku said, shaking his head vigorously and finding himself unexpectedly dizzy. He's telling the truth, Kaminari said as he sat down between Katsuki and Izuku, having overheard the tail end of the conversation. Midoriya likes Okako. If a hole had suddenly appeared in the ground, Izuku would have eagerly jumped into it. He stammered. He didn't know whether to agree or disagree with that statement. But he definitely knew he didn't want to be talking about it while his late-night fantasy was sitting this close to him, demolishing his generous plate of curry. I mean, don't you like her, Kaminari? Izuku finally responded, diverting the subject. Who's Okako? Mina asked. My co-worker, Izuku said. My future girlfriend, said Kaminari. Oh yeah. Weren't you supposed to be bringing her? Jiro said dryly, settling down on the floor. She already had plans, Kaminari admitted. He sighed despondently. It's just as well. She likes Midoriya anyways. Izuku brought his cup down from his mouth, looking at Kaminari in horror. You don't know that, he said. He was further mortified when he noticed that Katsuki had raised his head and appeared to be listening. Pretty sure she does, brother. Jiro stared at Izuku. She flicked her eyes over to Katsuki then back to him almost imperceptibly. Really, she said. Her eyes seemed to be asking him a question. Izuku looked away, burying his face in his drink and trying to make himself invisible. Izuku, Jiro said casually. Your face is a mess. What happened? You should go clean it off, you look like a wet newspaper. Izuku stood quickly, grateful for the out. He swayed a little. Right, he said. Thanks. Mina watched Izuku sway. How many of Jiro's drinks have you had? She asked. 4. Izuku counted on his fingers. 3. 5. No, 4. He paused. And a half. Mina, Jiro, and Kaminari laughed. That's going to hit you like a brick real soon, Jiro said. You don't look like you drink much. Might wanna take it easy for a while. Izuku nodded dumbly and staggered off in a direction where he was pretty sure he'd seen a bathroom earlier. Once he found the bathroom, Izuku locked the door and gazed into the mirror. He was a mess. The fake blood had mixed with his tears and turned his cheeks into messy gray splotches. There was makeup on his hands where he'd wiped his face. There was no saving this. Izuku took a few breaths to settle himself then washed his face in the sink. When he raised his head again he almost fell backwards. Those drinks hadn't tasted alcoholic at all, but he'd downed a whole lot of them while eating that curry. He studied his reflection and made a face. At least he looked better. When Izuku returned everyone but Katsuki had left the couches. Jiro was setting up a group of people around the snack table for some sort of drinking game. Izuku steeled himself before returning to the couch, plopping down in the same spot. Your chair's empty, Izuku said to Katsuki, indicating the armchair. Katsuki ignored him. Izuku took up his drink again, trying to think of something to say. Curry's not really a party food, is it? He asked. Katsuki glared at him. No one made you eat it. Izuku waved his hands, his drink sloshing over the rim. I didn't mean it like that, he said, backtracking. It was really good. The best I've ever had. Even better than my mom's. He raised his free hand over his mouth. Don't tell her I said that. Katsuki blinked slowly at Izuku. Don't tell your mom, he repeated. Izuku started laughing nervously. Oh, right. Guess you don't know her. He hiccuped. Katsuki kept staring at Izuku. Izuku looked away, readjusting himself so he was sitting sideways on the couch. It was more comfortable. Izuku, sweetie, Mina said as she passed by the couch. She looked at the cup in his hand. You really should listen to Jiro. Her drinks can be deadly. Izuku clutched his cup closer. I'm fine, he said. Let him have it, Katsuki said. Yeah. Izuku said a little too forcefully. Mina laughed. Okay then. After Mina left, Izuku grinned. Thanks, Kaken. Stop thanking me for weird stuff, will you? Katsuki said. Izuku remained silent for a while, sipping on his drink while he watched Katsuki blearily. The fog was coming on strong now, and it made him feel dopey. His eyes were drawn back time and time again to Katsuki's tattoos. He wanted to know more about them. He wanted to know more about Katsuki. Katsuki looked up sharply. You staring at me? He demanded. Izuku smiled. You're a really impressive person, you know that, he said. Katsuki looked to be at a loss for words. You're weird, he said. If you're going to be weird, get lost. I mean it, Izuku insisted. His vision was swimming, but he could still see the cut of Katsuki's jaw, the furrow of his brow, his fierce eyes. He felt as though they were in a dream. You play guitar. You sing. You more or less run your band. You work. You cook. He leaned his head against the side of the couch. Do you sleep? He joked. Izuku thought he saw a smirk flicker across Katsuki's face. Sometimes, he said. Izuku grinned. They had something in common after all. I'm like that too, he mumbled. I stay late at work almost every night. Sometimes I sleep there cause it's too late to go home. He chuckled to himself. Not that it's done me any good. He raised his head and gazed at Katsuki meaningfully. "'S why I'm starting other stuff now," he said. "Taking on events. I really like doing shows a lot." He set his drink down on the coffee table sloppily. "Yours was the best one." "Oh, but I've only done 2. I'm going to do more though. Mina said you guys were having another show. Maybe I'll come to that, if it's okay." Katsuki paid attention to the entire length of Izuku's rambling. "You never stop talking, do you?" he said finally. "Do what you want." "I don't care." Izuku smiled sheepishly. "Sorry," he said. "I've been told I talk a lot when I'm nervous." "Yeah, well, add when you're hammered to the list." Izuku said. "Maybe a little of both." Katsuki turned back to his phone again as a cheer went up around the room. Since the drinking games had broken out, the place had gotten exponentially rowdier. Izuku watched Katsuki, and a thought crossed his mind. "You responded to my email about the photographs really fast," he said. "Is the number on your business card?" He gestured towards the blonde's phone. Katsuki eyed Izuku cautiously. "Yeah," he said. Izuku grinned. He'd had Katsuki's number this whole time. "As much as I hate it, you gotta run a band like a business. Otherwise no one takes you seriously." "You don't have a personal number?" Izuku asked. "Don't have time for that crap," Katsuki said. "If it ain't about the band I'm not interested." "So serious," Izuku murmured. He should probably start thinking about his photography the same way. Another cheer went up around the room and Katsuki bit down on his lip like he was holding back words. The noise was getting louder by the minute. Jiro wandered over to them not long after. "I've got to go," she said. "Don't want to be late." She grinned sloppily and gave them both a thumbs up. "Have a good night, boys," she said. Izuku laughed drunkenly. Jiro was funny. "Bye," Izuku said, waving after her. That reminded Izuku. Pulling out his phone, he checked the time and gasped. "Friaik," he whispered. That got Katsuki's attention. He looked at Izuku expectantly. "I was supposed to be at my friend's party 15 minutes ago," Izuku said, groaning. "It's on the other side of town too." "So go," Katsuki said. Izuku paused. He looked at Katsuki as he typed away on his phone, becoming progressively more annoyed by the rising noise levels. It probably made it hard to focus on whatever he was dealing with. He glanced around the room. Spider-Man had lost his mask and the black-haired guy under it was laying starfished in the middle of the floor, laughing hideously while spraying silly string at the ceiling. Izuku was struck with a sudden idea. "Want to come?" he asked Katsuki. Katsuki stopped typing and looked at Izuku. "What?" he grunted. Izuku scratched his neck. "Well, it's Halloween," he started. "It'd be kind of sad if you spent the whole evening working, wouldn't it?" "My friend he won't mind." Izuku hoped. "And why the hell would I want to go with you?" "It'll be a lot quieter," Izuku said, latching on to the idea. "We usually end up watching movies and playing board games. It'll be a smaller group too. So if you need to deal with something, Izuku, I'm typing out a message on a phone. It won't be so distracting." He paused, then smiled cautiously. "He has a balcony too if you need to yell at someone." Katsuki raised an eyebrow. "If I need to yell at someone?" Izuku nodded determinedly. "Yeah." Katsuki stared at Izuku for a long time. Izuku stared back. It felt like a contest, so he tried not to blink. After a minute or so Katsuki threw a hand in the air. "Screw it," he said.